Hello, good evening. Chris Hughes from Rebound on Upstreamedia's YouTube and also Facebook live streaming channel. Welcome. I hope everyone's well. I'm really excited for tonight's show. I've got a former Reading Rockets legend, Danny Carter, most people know him as DC. He's wearing his Stony Brook top. It's great to see some having that passion and for that franchise at the university, and obviously we'll be talking about all that and more. Welcome, DC. I hope you're well.
Yeah, I'm good, man. Thank you so much for having me.
It's all right. I've really enjoyed having these shows. We're sort of talking before air, but really from Upstream Media, so we do this great daily show. So if you're new to the channel, wanted to find out a bit more about the channel, give them a like and subscribe. The guys at Upstream Media do great work. This season just gone, they were streaming Thames Bay Cavaliers home games with some great camera work and commentator guests coming on. They had slow motion replays and get the whole game live. It's a really good package. And obviously, since the lockdown, we've had myself, CJ, and guys High Rollers doing their own shows and these are great shows. So if you like today's show, obviously go have a look at the other shows. There's a lot to see. I say welcome to the show, DC. I thought maybe we could start off with your intro about yourself, about your basketball journey, how the passion all became, and sort of how you got to represented GB at under 18 level, under 20 level. Sorry.
Yeah, so I was kind of obsessed with football as a kid, and it got to the stage that I was so obsessed with football that my mum kind of forced me to take up a second sport, and I could pick the sport. She said you can pick any sport you want, but I'm not having you just constantly talking and just living football, which is all I did as a youngster. So I picked basketball because at the time I was like 12, 13. I was like, oh yeah, like basketball's cool. Like I'm gonna do that. It didn't have anything to do with my height because at the time I was only slightly taller than everyone else. I wasn't so big. So I started doing that, and I went down to little trials at the Thames Valley Youth Games. It just so happened that Matt Johnson was doing the Windsor and Maidenhead team. So it was just a real lucky coincidence, considering how influential he was going to be later on in my basketball career. So I kind of did that, and then I stopped playing for a year. Actually, let me go back to that quickly because Matt, actually, this is one thing I always hold against Matt. Like his basketball knowledge isn't that good. He only picked me because he saw how tall my dad was when he walked through to the sports hall to pick me up at the end of the sessions. So my dad's 6'7", and Matt wasn't going to pick me at all. And to the point where I know he wasn't going to pick me because he didn't even write my details down on his notepad of the people he wanted to contact. And then my dad showed up, and then he wrote down that my mum and dad's name and phone number and house address and stuff like that. So Matt wasn't even going to pick me. So my basketball journey could have actually stopped that day. So I did the Thames Valley Youth Games, stopped for a year, and then I kind of wanted to pick it up again because I really enjoyed it. I missed playing. So I started at under 14s with Rockets, and I had Lloyd Gardner as my head coach and Ben Fisher as my assistant. So I had straight away, I had two really, really good coaches, sort of thing. I had Lloyd again for my under 15s, and that summer in between my under 14s and under 15s was huge because as an under 14, I was like 6'5", so I grew 7 inches in 5 months. So I went from 5'10" to 6'5" in such a short space of time. But me playing sport, I was like Bambi on ice. I was falling over, I couldn't catch my body, my limbs were everywhere. And I went away, and it's when the old Millfield camps were running down in Taunton way. I went to those two in the summer, and when I came back, I got selected for the England team at the South Regional stuff in that August, September time, which me going to it, I wasn't even thinking I could be anywhere near that level. So I kind of just went and played, not even wanting to make it, if that makes sense, because I didn't think I had the ability to make it. So that was really, really something. And I had Lloyd for my under 15s year. So that was really cool. And then I got cut from the England under 16s. I made the last 15. I got cut. And Matt wouldn't let me play my own age group at under 16s. He only let me play under 18s. So I basically got my butt kicked for 2 years playing under 18s because I was, quite younger than everyone else, but I was a bit stupid and naive in terms of I assumed everyone was still going to be easy to beat, like they were under 15. So I was trying to get away with stuff that I couldn't get away with. Um, so that was difficult. And I started training with the men at like 14, 15, 16 years old. So that was a real interesting because, again, like I got my butt kicked by the men for like 2 or 3 years. Like they had some real good players. Like EJ Harrison was on those teams. Rich Wellens, Lloyd was playing. Paul Tonkovic, Peter Madsen, like they had some great, great players, like teams that won like stuff at Division One at the time. I was at those practices basically just getting beat up on, and then kind of I got to the point where I was at the squad for the England 1987 team, and I was the last one cut for that. And that team had Joel Freeland, Dan Clark, Matthew Byron Manning, Justin Robinson, Ben Eves, Keith Page, Phil Waite. Like the team, Matt Guyman was on that, and the team was absolutely stacked. And the fact that I managed to get down to an age group above me, the last one, it kind of gave me that, okay, like I can really develop something here. So I went into my under 18 season, my final year of juniors, and the year before we lost in the final to East London Royals, which had like Joe Kimwin was on that, David Ajamobi, Albert Margai, like some real like good players that have been around for a while and played at a high standard. And they were great at junior. East London Royals were always the pinnacle down south. Like when we were playing, like they were always the team to beat, and they beat us in the final. Yeah, and then my under 18s year, my team went 27-0. We won the cup, we won the playoffs, and I was the MVP of both finals, national under 18 player of the year, and I made the GB. I made the England under 18 team, and then the year after I made the GB under 20 team, which was like huge because I could have had the chance to go to the States after that, but I stayed one more year and just played Div 1 men. And for me, I think that that really was huge because the club kind of made the choice for whatever reason to just have me on the Div 1 men roster and have me as one of their senior guys, even though I was so young. And we had an American on the team, a guy called Clint Dees, and he actually dipped out in the middle of the night. So he was one of the Americans, and he just took a different job in Mexico midway through the season. So it was a month. So he played a double header on a Saturday and Sunday. And on the Monday night, he kind of packed his bags and left. So we go into Tuesday's practice, and Coach Dave Tipnis was my coach. And so we go into the Tuesday's practice, and we're like, okay, well, Clint's left. Danny, you're up. And I was just Clint's backup, sort of thing. And so I got thrown straight into the fire, straight into the starting lineup. I was 19 years old. And we played, I forget who we played. We played something at the weekend. I think it might have been Derby in their first year, Division 1 at the time. And I had 26. I played really, really well. And Matt came up to me when I got subbed out finally. I was exhausted. I played so hard because I wanted to do so well. And he was like, "Are you okay?" Matt's like, "I've never seen you play like that." I was like, "No, yeah, I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine." And Matt's like, "Okay, just to let you know, Tuesday, the expectation of you is now going to go to there from this performance." And that was really big for me because then that whole year of Div 1 men then prepared me for Stony Brook. So that was kind of my rise through under 14s all the way up, if that makes sense.
Of course. So many bits to sort of pick apart from what you said. And say you said about the great coaches you had, Lloyd Gardner, Matt Johnson. When you, in those formative years, you obviously said how that D1 season really prepared you for going to America. But what was the best advice that you were given then? Maybe what would maybe advice current day you would have given to you going back then?
Yeah, I mean, Rich Wellens was always quite a big influence, for me, as a player, as a young player, playing on the men's team. He always had my back, and he'd been to the States, so he kind of prepped me with kind of that lifestyle, if that makes sense, what it's like over there, what to expect, what you'd expect a practice to look like. So that was really, really useful. But Coach Titmus, and I was actually talking to Matt Johnson at work about this today. Now Matt and Lloyd and Ben, in my opinion, gave me all the basketball skill stuff to help me be ready for that level. But Coach Titmus, like always, like his coaching style is the best way I can put it. Is like he prepared me for the States in terms of what to expect, like coaching wise. And and the thing is like you should always play hard because you don't know when your opportunity will be and when that small window of opportunity will be. Because when you go to the States, and this is the naivety that I had, and I see it in young people today, young aspiring basketball players, is like your opportunity might literally be a 4 minute window in a practice or a 3 minute window in a game, and it's like you being ready to take that opportunity is huge. And I think having a combination of different people was really, really big for me.
I'm really glad you mentioned that. So only just today I was watching the Ball of Voice response to that really great round table of hoops fix. They're sort of raining on both the hoops fix and obviously the guys raining on their discussion in terms of whether the young players should be going to America and how they should sort of be going about their own player development. I didn't know what your feel on that was because I think you touched there saying some players go for naivety, but what opportunities do you think are there if they pick the right picks? I'm sure there's a lot of good opportunities there if they actually find what's right for them and maybe how they define that.
Yeah, like for me, like when I was younger, and I'm sure all the other guys my age will probably feel there was a lot less clubs. You didn't have the academy system, but there's a lot less clubs. So like talent didn't get so diluted, like if that makes sense. And I think that like people like to be able to have really honest reflection about yourself and where your ability is, because it's I was lucky. I had like Coach Titmus, guys on the team, Matt, Ben, like Lloyd, even though he went to Barking, like keeping me in check about the reality of my level of where I was going to go, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Whereas it's easy to kind of look at like the bright lights of somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Like, and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to go do this, I'm
yeah,
going to do that because I'm scoring 46 in a National League game in the middle of nowhere. Like that, in reality, it doesn't matter. Like you need to be in an environment that's really competitive every single day because when you go to the States, that's exactly what it's going to be. And there's going to be four people at your position, but you're not going to be that much better than, or you might not be the best at any of those positions. And I think that's like a really key thing for young people. Like, and if you are the best person in your position at your club, like, so for me, like we started like the Reading Rockets Academy in my year, and like not being arrogant, like I was the best player there, but my mentality was to every single time I was on the floor was to be the best player in that practice, for example. And Matt would hold me accountable to being that, if that makes sense. So I think that's like really key. I think like I would, if it was me personally, I'd get rid of a bunch of the academies and only have the top academies and just go nationwide with the whole league. And I think that makes it more
yeah.
competitive. And I think that makes it more fun. I also would probably it's tough, but like get like somehow get practice footage, get game footage, and get guys to kind of really get a reality check to compared to where they could go. If that makes sense, because I don't want to knock anybody. If you've got aspirations of going to the States or Europe or anything like that, like go and pursue that dream, but like understand like your limitations and where you can and can't go. You know, like
Def-
I've been around a long time. Like Jeremy Sochan, like seeing him as a youngster, like he's got tools. And I was around Luke Nelson, like he's got tools to go like to the next level. And like when I was younger, Dan Clark, Joel Freely, Matthew Bryan, like it's like not everybody are those people. Does that make sense? Like not everybody's
of
that.
course,
Like
yeah, yeah. I know, and look, I say I come from a fan. I only come into sport 3 or 4 years ago, and what you were saying just reminds me of I was listening to. I think it was either Chad or Ishmael was saying about, and I think obviously Tossin sort of said about knowing your ability. And I'm really surprised about in this country, but because it is an overwhelming majority of it want to go to states, but it's not sort of like a pre-workout session where you have like 3 or 4 guys, but the lead reps thinks are guys who will hold people accountable, say it how it is, but in a nice way, of course. Because as a fan, I see lots of players come back after that a few months, and I just feel if they had the right people around them, not saying they haven't, but more voices to listen to, maybe those mistakes might not happen. They might have got the best opportunities. For me to lead, it's so disheartening when I see players come back to clubs when they've only been out for a couple of months, and you hear stories. It's a shame, and I think when I have someone like yourself on, it's really good to sort of talk about that because obviously you've been through that process, and obviously have a lot of experience to give. Um, I thought we steer away a bit because I really want to talk about your story and what your journey. So I thought let's break down that first year. What was that like, and what were some of sort of the takeaways from your first year at Stony Brook?
Um, yeah, like it was incredible. Like in terms of Stony Brook's based in Long Island, New York. It's in terms of location, like, and I said this to everybody, like the where you live it is so important because your season's only November to March. So like the way you are for the rest of the year is so big, and I lived in such a beautiful place. Like Long Island's so gorgeous, so I was really fortunate to live there. And my freshman year was such a whirlwind of like emotions and like feelings. So when we got there, they were 7-23 the season before, so they really weren't that good. But like part of my like choice to go there was because I was like, well, I'm going to have the opportunity to play straight away, and for me that was huge. Like I didn't want to sit on the bench. Like I just wanted to play. In my very first game, like I led my team in scoring. I had 11 points. We played Maryland Eastern Shore. We got a win. And then I struggled for a couple of games because I again was naive and I thought I'd find it that easy every game. Well, guess what? The scouting in America and the film they do is another level. So as soon as I went into that second game, there was somebody straight away taking away what I was successful on in the first game, and that's what they do, and it's like a full-time job. And again, like being so young, I was so naive to that, and I kind of had like a bit of a rough patch. And then the last game before Christmas, we play UConn. They were number 2 in the nation. They had Kemba Walker, Hashim Thabit were number 2 in the draft that year. Jeff Adrian, AJ Price, Stanley Robinson, Craig Ostry, Jerome Dyson. Like they end up with like 5 guys playing in the NBA for that team. And I had 20 on them as a freshman, and we lost by 37. And like everyone wants to tell me like, yeah, you scored 20 on UConn. Like I remember it clearly. Yeah, we lost by 37. Like that. Like my 20 only helped us not lose by 57. Like that's how good they were. Like first play of the game, Craig Ostry drives baseline, throws it to Hashim Thabit, and he dunks it. Like we knew we were in for a long night that night. And that was incredible. But after that, I kind of wanted to keep it up. So I started doing extra stuff, like extra shooting, extra workouts, like everything. I get up early, go to bed late. And I flew home. It was the only year I flew home for Christmas. So we finished that game. We would practice on the 23rd. I fly home the night of the 23rd, and I'm back on the 26th on Boxing Day. And I'm still doing extra like stuff in that time, like to try and get better because I want to keep that level now. I kind of understand how hard I got to play. I got to understand I got to pick my spots, my role, and stuff like that. And my back essentially didn't agree with me and gave out. And I've had horrendous back issues ever since, and it's kind of why I've had to retire. And that freshman year, like we ended up having our first ever winning season. We were 16-14, so the real smallest. So it was the first ever winning season in Division One, and it's the smallest margin you could get to a winning season. And it was huge, like in terms of the buzz around Stony Brook basketball, because they were always a laughing stock in the league they were in and around school campus. Like the basketball team was a laughing stock. And like so after that first year, like I missed probably about 4, 5, 6 games because of my back, and like my legs just weren't the same, and I had all sorts of issues, and it played on my mind as well. Like affected me like that way. And like my freshman year was like I had the highest high of scoring 20 on the number 2 team in the nation on national TV in front of 12,500 people, and I hit this low of not being able to play injured. I'd never been injured before, so it was a real roller coaster of emotions that year. But I had such great coaches like and community around there. Because I actually said to them, like, I understand if you want my scholarship back because I'm not the same player you recruited. I had that conversation, and they like said to me, like, no, like we still want you to be here. We still want you to be part of our program. It's we just have to find you a different role, and you have to buy into that role. And like for me, that was huge because I've never heard of a story like that anywhere else. Um,
Wow.
Getting injured and being a different player, like I've never heard like those coaches kind of say to that player, like, yeah, no, we still want you to be here. Just we don't expect you to be the player we thought you were going to be, but we still want you to be someone else. Do you know what I mean? Like that for me, that was so like special because I still felt like I could be a part of something.
Definitely, and I think you're coming across someone who's very committed. A team player is sort of talking off air how you've never done a highlights reel because you feel the value for teams more than the value for individual. Who installed that in you? Was that something like a family thing, or was that sort of like Matt Johnson, all the Reading guys around you, or a personal
It's
thing?
a yeah, yeah, it's a combination between my parents and like Matt and the club and stuff like that. So when I was a junior and I started having all that quick success, like I was a bit of a hole, like to put it politely, to my teammates and stuff like that. Like I was arrogant and wasn't a very good teammate. I would bark at my teammates, and basically it was always their fault, even though I made a mistake. And um, I kind of like alienated myself from my teammates all the time. And like, my parents obviously didn't want to see me like that, and Matt didn't want to see me like that. And so you kind of end up like going through a whole, which is a really difficult phase. So basically getting told that you're not as good as you think you are, you're not as important as you think you are, and like just being humbled really. And I think going to like a losing program and having to claw your way up to change the culture of that program. Like Stony Brook's a perennial winning program now and has had multiple winning 20 win seasons now. Like we were kind of like the class that changed it all, but it's definitely a combination of my parents and like Matt, like kind of getting me to shift my mindset from being an individual and being a team player.
Definitely, I think the mental part of the game is really important. Obviously, look at our own mental health, but also having to deal with that roller coaster. So I imagine a lot of your peers probably had that similar highs and lows being a freshman. How did you find coping with that? Because obviously you're living away from home, you're having a travel team, probably working really hard on the court, off the court, maybe not seeing as much New York as you like. What helped for you? Because I'm sure there's a lot of players probably just like the freshman season or about to start the freshman season. Oh gosh, that was really emotionally tiring because there's a lot of demand on you. I'm sure.
Yeah, like for me, it's like on the basketball side of things, like when you go to your freshman season, when you go to a new program, is get yourself like a good routine of when you're going to get 250 makes every single day, just as a starting point. Like find like a period of the day, even though your timetable, your schedule might be different every single day. Just find a schedule of the day, not including practice of the shots you're taking practice. A separate time of the day, like when can you make 250 shots a day? Because that straight away will give you confidence. Because when you're practicing and you're running up and down, and you're making shots, you're just going to mentally be in such a better place. All the other stuff will come, and you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. But if you've got the consistency, you're going to be absolutely fine. And I think that's one of the main things. I think don't get caught up in the lifestyle, which for me, when I was in a bad headspace, like I got caught up in the lifestyle of American university life. And like, yeah, it was incredible and I had a lot of fun. But my job was to go and play basketball. Like, and I got sidetracked from that because I had headspace about my basketball. Um, but yeah, like that's the one thing is make sure like you're keeping to your basketball routine. And again, like ball handling, passing, like make sure you're fitting time in your day. Just pick out maybe you have to get up at 5 a.m. to get your shots in because you got a busy day. Well, we'll do that, commit to that, and then make sure you don't get caught up in a lifestyle. Like you're there on a basketball scholarship, you're there to play basketball and get a degree. So make sure you're like kind of enjoying yourself and having fun. I'm not saying everybody should like stick to their room, but like make sure you're kind of
Yeah,
understanding your priorities, which I lost that for sure, like a lot of the time.
I can understand. I'm sure, especially living in New York, the temptation's magnified compared to maybe being back home in the UK. Obviously, what were some of your highlights from living that American experience? I'm sure there's a really funny story or a great memory you have that you look back and say, okay, maybe that wasn't the right thing to do, but that was a really fun experience and bonding with my peers and etc.
Yeah, no, like one that always sticks out. Like my mum and dad were able to come over, and I got to play in Madison Square Garden, and that was really really cool. It It was freezing. It was so cold. Like it's on top of the ice rink, and that we didn't get us versus Rutgers did not get as many fans as what the Knicks would get. So it was really cold in there that day. But other ones, like other like just really fun memories of just like being on the road and kind of jumping into that American culture. Like I can't think of anything that comes to mind right now, but like we were so good defensively. Like I just think like back to during games, like we were so good defensively. We were all 4 years we were ranked in the top 10 for a defensive like category or multiple defensive categories, and like we're at a point where like I remember being in games and another guy I played with, a guy called Tommy Brenton. Like I remember being at a point where we knew the other team's stuff so well. Like I remember saying to a guy like, "Oh, Bud, like you're supposed to down screen here. Like you're not supposed to be setting a back screen." Like I knew his play better than he did, and because the amount of film we watched and stuff like that. So that's always quite fun when you do that, especially if you do it in front of your own bench, because then you hear a bit of drawing going on and stuff like that. But yeah, no, like the lifestyle is incredible. It's like you have a film room and you have like cushions, like stadium seats and seats, and it's like the whole like, atmosphere and culture, and like it's tough not to take it for granted at the time because you're so young and naive. Like if I could go back tomorrow, I'd go back, and stuff. But it's just an incredible experience, and you got to try and take it all in whilst keeping your feet on the ground. That's really tough, really really tough. But I actually loved my 4 years. I was so fortunate.
Definitely, and obviously when you at the start you were saying about you played against Kemba Walker and other NBA players. At the time when you played, was it? Did you straight think, "Oh, this guy's a bit special. He's going to be one for the future"? What was that moment where you thought, "Oh gosh, he's going to be a big star"? Was there a specific like game or moment?
Yeah, so there's two. So I played CJ McCollum 3 times, and the first 2 times we played CJ McCollum, we held him to like 6 points and 8 points. So my freshman and sophomore year, he then comes to our place our junior year, and like, he must have had it circled on his calendar because I've never seen a more complete scoring output by anybody in my entire life. He put on 32 and he scored from three in transition, mid range. He posted up our guards. He got to the rim. He made free throws, and he was just absolutely incredible. Like he scored on every single level, and didn't matter what we did that day. Like he just destroyed us. But he must have had that. Like the 2 previous years, like we absolutely locked him up, and he must have remembered that the last time he played us. But my Kemba Walker one is like I hope Coach Young isn't watching this. So he's the head coach of Fairfield now, but he was the associate head coach at Stony Brook in charge of the bigs and defense really. And Kemba Walker catches this defensive rebound right at his own free throw line. So I turn,
Wow.
I take 2 steps, I look up. So I take 2 steps, I look up, and Kemba Walker, who got the rebound at his own free throw line, after my 2 steps I look up, he's at our free throw line.
Yep. Wow.
Like he is that quick. Like he was so electric. Like I was like just kind of looking around, being like how is he this fast? So like a couple of plays later, we hedged on ball screens a lot because we wanted to divert the offensive player, and I hedged on this ball screen. And Kemba Walker just like went around me and went and scored a layup. And my assistant coach just we called a timeout. My assistant coach goes crazy at me. Like he just absolutely loses it at me. Like, why can't I keep in front of Kemba Walker? And I just kind of look at him being like, why would I be able to keep in front of Kemba Walker? Like, have you seen how fast this guy is?
Yeah.
And so I got subbed for that right there. But I kind of look at him like what do you want me to do in this situation? Like,
of course.
Like, started the All at the time. Like, that was the year he took UConn on that massive run. That was their season opener, and yeah, he was just a next level athlete, and he was so good, so good.
Good. And in terms of like individual matchup, having to guard a specific player, was there any other players that really stood out, really tough to play against in any of your years at Stony Brooks?
Yeah, I mean Hashim Thabit is a big. Like he was 7'3", like so he was just so, and he was really mobile as well. Like he wasn't slow or like lethargic the way he moved. Like he was quite fluid, and even like had developed like a bit of a foul line jumper. So even if I was up, like I couldn't contest his jump shot anyway. So he was like the main one, and then just other guys in our conference were really really impressive. Like a guy called John Holland that played at Boston University. He actually ended up on the Cavs. The last year they went to, they played Golden State in the finals. Now, I don't think he got in, but he was a super talented player. And a guy called Marcus Blakely that ended up playing NBA Summer League as well, who's at Vermont. He was a really, really talented player as well. That was, again, like really tough to guard. But you get to that level, like there's so many like good players. Like Victor, I played against Victor Oladipo. Him as an athlete as well, like he was incredible. I just didn't get to match up with him. But yeah, like those two, real tough.
Yeah. Um, Sort of off the court, say a lot of podcasts sort of talked about the development pathways and facilities. What was it like at Stony Brook in terms of were you able to get 24 access to the gym? What was it like for you compared to maybe some venues you've seen in the UK?
Yeah, so I went out for summer school before I started my freshman year to get 2 classes under my belt, and I landed like 2 days before summer school started because I want to get jet lag out of the way. And I went and worked out, and I showered and went back to my room, and I had some food, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go shoot again. So I didn't realize you could just go. So I called my assistant coach, and I was like, Coach, can I go work out in the gym? Can I go shoot? And he's like kind of pauses. He's like, is there someone in there? I was like, no, like, I don't know. Like, I'm in my room. He's like, oh, like he's like, Danny, like you don't have to ask to go work out. He's like, if there's people in there, you can just tell them to leave. You're on the basketball team. I was like, oh wow, okay, I appreciate that. Like, da da da. And before he hangs up the phone, he's like, don't ever call me and ask me about this again. And then he just hangs up the phone on me. Whereas like here, like there's always that famous joke amongst players where like you want to go shoot or work out, but like the badminton posts are up or they're
Yeah.
setting up for like something else, and yeah, like it's quite difficult even at like Reading. Like they run so many like community programs or junior clubs. You can't always just get in and shoot, or I'd have to try and do it before work, but then getting up even earlier, you have practice like late at night. That's like a tough motivation. But yeah, like having to like text and call around to find an open gym because I wasn't a fan of shooting outside. Like I've never been one to want to go play outside, so that was really difficult to adjust back to that when I moved back, if that makes sense. But yeah,
Of
there's such
course.
like the facilities are incredible. Like JMA and Redden have one now, like the rebounder machine, the gun. Like so they had
Right.
like two of those at Stony Brook, so like two players could be going at once, one at each end. Um, but yeah, no, you just had like unlimited like basketballs available to you and stuff like that. Like it's just so like the money invested in it is just so good.
Definitely, and I say it's good to hear stories, and I think gets people thinking because I think it's so easy for fans just to like turn up at the arena and just not really realize how much hard work goes into, especially at NBL level, in terms of people got jobs alongside playing, got families, they've got got to travel, obviously commit. So hats off to you and everyone who's involved in the game. I think there's no one will say you guys don't work hard. You definitely do. Before we finish with all the Stony Brook things, were there any other highlights that really come to your mind when you look back at, oh, that was amazing, and sort of want to recount those? I'm sure a few guys from back in the US are watching, maybe want to hear some of those stories again, I'm sure.
Yeah, so like I said, we had the opening season. We won the first ever regular season title. Won that twice. We lost in the championship game twice. We got to play in the NIT twice. We got to host Illinois, which was really really cool. Um, like they and obviously you and me were talking about this before we came on, but essentially Illinois were so convinced they were going to make the NCAA tournament as an at-large bid, they rented their arena out to Cirque du Soleil. So we we ended up hosting them, but they were like the home team in our gym, and they were the 1 seed, we were the 8 seed, and like we had like 5,000 people that pack into the arena to watch that game, and we lost by 7, which is obviously they had guys like Mike Scott who's still in the NBA, he's on that team, and Dimitri McCamey and Mike Tisdale. There's some really really good players. Um, so it's just yeah, I don't know, like it's like friendships as well. Like my buddy Brian Dewar, he came on me to do the South Aspire stuff that Josh Thorne's running right now. So we did a whole Q&A, and they're like the kind of friendships you still have with guys. Like I still text and speak to my old coaches and old teammates, and like that sense of community and like that. Like even though you leave, like you still root for each other and you still stay in contact. You're still supportive of each other. It's not like you've moved on, so like we forget about you or like you're with us anymore. It's kind of like you move on, like you're still part of our bigger extended family. And that's like really important. I'd like to think anybody else that's gone out to the States has kind of had that experience as well. So they're like massive highlights for me. But yeah, like I'd recommend anybody going to the States, like because I had such a great time despite having the back injury and like some issues and stuff like that. Like I still had like an absolute blast.
Definitely. And it definitely does feel like a family feel when if you've gone to that uni for a year, you're still there. A family following on, I spoke to a few players who maybe just went for a year or two, but they've still got their contacts with their coach and still have that relationship. I thought I'd sort of touch on the experience to say, imagine playing for 5,000 people in the crowds. Um, I imagine that was an amazing experience. Obviously, you're trying to focus on the game, but was there a particular game? Obviously, Illinois will probably be up quite high, but where for you, you thought, wow, that was like the best game day experience I was a part of while you were in America.
Yeah, like the hosting Illinois definitely was, but we got to a point that we ended up being like on ESPN a couple of times on like the ESPN news stuff, which is like it's like nationwide. You can kind of tune into it from anywhere in the country. We packed the gym out again with like 4,800. We hosted Maine, which is a conference game. Maine were quite good that year, so that was like a really competitive game, which we won in overtime. And like yeah, the gym was like packed that day, and that was a really cool experience. And but our America East tournament as well was always at like a central venue until the championship game. So like you'd go like to this neutral venue. Well, I say neutral, it'd be one of the other teams in the conference, obviously, but like you'd go and you'd kind of bring half the court would be your fans, your bands, your cheerleaders, all that kind of stuff. Like your like athletic directors, da 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 da. They brought. So depending on if that school was any good, had a good fight, like you had two good conference semifinals and stuff like that. Atmosphere to that was like hostile, like really hostile, and depending we went offense and defense that end and stuff like that. Like it was that was like probably some of the most competitive like times I can think of.
Wow, so it's amazing to say. Hearing stories like that just makes you miss that basketball even a bit more, going to watch the game, hopefully whenever the new season starts. But obviously after that you came back to Reading. That first season back, it was quite a talented team from the looks. You had Luke Nelson, Lewis Champion, yourself, a few others. What were some of your memories from that first season back? And did you, in your head, obviously you had those 4 years, how best do you think you've got just about experience in the US and what changed you notice sort of being back in the UK?
Yeah, I definitely had a bit of an adjustment my first year back. Like when I think Reading probably like Matt and like Ben, like especially probably had a bit more of an adjustment to how my game was now as well. Like I'd obviously been hurt and stuff. I lost like the majority of my athleticism that when I was quite young. Like I used to run and like jump. Like I was a bit of like an athletic like four. When I came back, I was a bit more of like a five that could play the four. And my main focus and role on those Stony Brook teams was like I was up like back up big at the five spot, back up four, and I would be our big defender at any guards or wings as well. So I was a bit like a defensive player that would like kind of like a 3 and D guy, if that makes sense. At Stony Brook, that was like the new role that it came from me. But obviously, when you come back to England, like they expect a bit more from you, and for me to shift my mindset to kind of get into that kind of took a while. But also, like I was always quite conscious about Lewis and Luke as well, like because they were both like so talented, and they still are. Like I said, they were so talented, but at their age, they were so like talented.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like Luke won MVP of the league, and Lewis won MVP of the playoff final. Like if that shows like how talented that backcourt was, if that makes sense. And we had really good pros. And Ryan, and there's here that a guy called Liam Carpenter.
Yeah.
He's like in Germany now, and he like Liam was like such a good player, really underrated as an offensive player. And like semi final we played against, we won in overtime. he came up big, 8, 9 points in that game, but they were all like really
Wow.
important buckets. Um, so like that was like a big thing, kind of getting my head wrapped around how you do that. But we won the, like I said, we won the league in the playoffs that year, so that was amazing.
Definitely. When I've been doing research, it always seems that Reading, especially since recently, have been a typically top five side, and obviously you've been around quite a few of those seasons yourself. What were the characteristics that you felt made them such a consistently good side, even though maybe personnel-wise they changed a few players here and there? What was it that gave that Reading DNA that extra special lift compared to maybe other teams in the
So
league?
sorry, I'm laughing. You said they might have changed a few players. We had overhauls most seasons.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, um, no, I think like with Reading, like they've always had like professional coach like take the men's team, like that's their job, if that makes sense. So I had Samit Nirazade when we first year back, then I had Manuel Peña for 5 seasons, and then Alan came on board, so I decided to retire after that season. Um, which I know he's watching. That's why I've made that dig.
Yeah,
He texted me earlier. He said he's watching. That's why I made that dig. I'm only
yeah,
joking now. Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think some years like we've had good like recruitment, and some years we've had bad recruitment. But um, I think like the ethos of the club is the expectation is like, and I've always got that, and I think my team body maybe consider me to be a bit of a hard ass or something sometimes, but my expectation is to win. Like I like look to this. It's only actually since I retired that I realised how much I missed out, because I was so like us on the way back or like after the game at home, like you couldn't talk to me. I was in such a bad mood. But when we won, like I wasn't happy, like because my expectation in my head was that you win. Like that's the expectation. Like you should go to every game that you win the game and you go home. So I wasn't even happy when we won games, because in my head I was like, yeah, like we've just done our job.
that's yeah,
Um, and I think like that's probably like one of the things that is also like you when you create that environment like in practice and stuff like that, and you make it real competitive. Like that's also something that then translate to the team, that when you go out at the weekend and stuff like that. And Reading seems to have a rivalry with quite a few clubs, which I don't mind. I quite enjoy that. We have a bit of a rivalry with Solent, not this season, but like we've had rivalries with Solent, like Hemel, Essex. Like there's like those are the ones that really spring to mind now. The Thames Valley's only down the road. We had battles with Northumbria when Mark Stoutel was the coach up there. Like they were like really good teams. And then Worthing's always for me like the biggest rivalry has been Reading versus Worthing, because that like stems back from when I was playing on the men's team before I left for the States, and we played like
yeah, yeah.
finals against each other and battling for leagues. That's like the biggest rivalry I've always felt. But the best team I've played against in England since I've been back are those Manchester teams that
Oh yeah,
for 2 seasons were absolutely. And I find it really sad that Manchester's not in Division One. Like for
I
me,
know.
it's
Yeah,
like as a young fan growing up, Manchester United was the pinnacle. Now I'm a Spurs fan. Like if they're not winning, that's fine with me. I don't care. Like, but like growing up, you want to see like the expectation of like the elite, if that makes sense. And I feel the same. Like I felt Manchester kind of Reading were the elite my first 2 seasons back for sure, and then Manchester kind of took over, and now Solent's taking over again. And I'm hoping like Reading eventually takes over that again. But it's like it's more competitive than what people think, that league, for sure. It's definitely more
for
competitive. But yeah, player retention like has been a difficult one. I have to always give a shout out. The best teammate I ever had, Joel Keeble, best teammate I ever had. He stuck it out with me for I think 4 seasons, and that's the longest I had a teammate at Reading since I've come back. And he was the best. Like he's the best teammate I ever had. He was so humble. He never got to play as much as he probably should have done, if I'm honest. Like he's a lot better than the minutes he got. And he though is like such a team player. Like he's such a good person, a good guy. Like um, yeah, it's a shame, because I felt like we could have kept some of those squads together, or some sense of like a core. We could have had even more success than what we did. And I'm not going to complain about the success we did have, but yeah, that's definitely a bit of a shame.
definitely. You mentioned Joel being one of the players you really enjoyed, especially him playing for 4 seasons. Were there other players that really stood out for you? Either they were like really tough to play this in training, or players you enjoy playing against with? Who are some? Obviously, I know you're not going to be able to name everyone, but who are some that sort of set
Yeah,
apart from maybe some of the others?
yeah, like teammates wise, like obviously like Luke and Lewis that first year, like in practice, like they used to have some great battles, and it was fun watching them sort of thing. Like Craig Ponder is the best American I've probably played with. Um, you know, Josh Wiltshire was MVP of the league as well. And that team we had, like with Simon Stewart, Abana Manueli, Gabriel Diaz Maria, like we had some great guys like that. But in the league though, like going around like different teams, like Lee Hodges, like he's such a handful. Like he's such a like big, strong guy. Malcolm Smith, like it's such a like difficult matchup for me, especially like because he's that much quicker than me. Even though I have a height advantage, he's that much quicker than me, and he can still he's built like a tank. So it's tough to match up against him. Like they definitely, and then like Tintin as well. Like obviously I played with Tintin for a couple of seasons at Reading, and me and him would always go back and forward when we play and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, no, like again, like the league's had some like really good players. Like Zaya Taylor's playing in this league. Like the first year we played against him, it was like a close game all game, and then it got to about a minute and a half, and he was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna go win the game now." And he made about 4 shots in a row that were just so tough. Like we were like guarding him, like we were in his shorts guarding him, and he was just like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna make this. I'm just gonna make this one too." And then yeah, I'll make this one, and game's over. Like he was really tough, but also like playing against guys that you play junior, like that's so much fun. Like Albert Margai, David Ejamobi, like Courtney Van Beest, like just Orlan Jackman, like he's another one that'll be like it's just playing guys that you play when you're younger as well. Like that's so much fun. Like it's a lot of fun for sure.
Definitely, I was looking at for shout out to Dave Owen and say his stats are always invaluable for any content I ever do on this with Rebound or on this YouTube channel. And I was looking, I think like every player you've played with is like a who's who of British basketball. You mentioned Josh Wiltshire, who's obviously left played with Raiders. You've played with I think one of the guys with Glasgow. You've played with quite a range of either BBL players or NBL players. Who so obviously they're really talented players, but in terms of an actual match, individual matchup, obviously the Sire one's probably maybe one on top of your lips. Um, what were some of the toughest ones you faced in an actual real game? So I imagine you came across some really good battles in your some of your games.
Yeah, like Simon Stewart when he was at Northumbria, my first year back, like he was such a tough matchup because this is no disrespect to like any of the guys that I played against, but it's rare you find a big that can score consistently with both hands. So when you're playing, like it's easier to kind of hedge your bets against them. Whereas
Yeah,
Simon, like, can make a jump hook off the glass and just straight up with both hands. Like he can't now. Like he's retired for 10 years because he's so old. But like he's like Simon when I first moved back was so difficult, and and Tintin as well. Like again, like Tintin is maybe 11 stone soaking wet. Like, but he is such a difficult matchup for someone like me that's a bit heavier and slower. Like, yeah, I obviously feel like I've got a great advantage down at the low post, but he's going to take me off about 3 down screens down the other end and probably shoot a three or take me off the dribble. And again, like it's so fun to have those matchups, but they're obviously really like difficult. But they're the two that have always really stuck out to me in terms of you kind of have to really focus in and trying to get them off their spots if you want to have any success against them, which is quite nice for me as well. That it's like 2 English guys, like that I've
of
had to
course.
really put in like more effort than what I would do, which maybe is disrespectful to other guys. I don't know, like, but I definitely would have to be more tuned in to Simon and when I first came back and Tintin, when he was at Derby, especially like Tintin at Derby was just lights out. We almost lost that semi final because he made so many threes in the final quarter.
For sure. And I remember your last season quite vividly. A lot of your tweets really resonated with me. And I think it was a really funny one where you're like, God, it had to be my last year for someone to start having the league. And then also your NBL player swap. To this day, I still remember that picture. And would love to know if you had the opportunity throughout your time in the NBL, maybe like 5 other players you would love to swap jersey with, and maybe why?
5. Okay. Simon Stewart, we end up being teammates
Yep.
as well. So like, and Lewis Champion end up being teammates and adversaries. So those two would be really good ones. I'd happy like do a jersey swap with them. Um, Brendan, I can't believe he played for Southern this past year. I was convinced he was going to be a Worthing lifer, but for me, like
After what? Yeah.
he started at like Worthing my first year back as well, and
Yeah.
like so every year like seeing each other, you kind of end up gaining that like mutual respect. Like I don't know Brendan as a person, if that makes sense, but I went and watched Solent this past year, and like he came up and saw me, asked how I'm doing, stuff like that. I definitely would have swapped. So I would have had at least one Worthing jersey. That I can't believe I'm saying that. Definitely had at least one Worthing jersey swap. Um, man, this is tough. Those three definitely, because they're the guys that have been in the league for years. I swear Lewis is only like 25 as well, and I feel like he's been playing for
I
15
know.
years.
Yeah.
Like he's been around
So the
for
Flyers doing
ages.
Mason now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's doing so well down there. And the other two, Malcolm Smith's probably the best import I've seen on another team, apart from Zaire Taylor. But I can't have two Worthy guys, so Zaire's not getting it. So Malcolm Smith will probably do it, but I wouldn't do him at Northumbria. I'd swap his jersey at Derby because I can't have three Northumbria jerseys because that would look weird. And then my last one, man, this is tough. My last jersey swap is actually this guy. My last home game, we played Manchester, and
Yeah.
you can actually see it on the YouTube game when we shake hands at the end. Daniel Pilkington gives me a bottle of scotch to kind of to kind of congratulate me on my career. And Manchester obviously
Yeah.
have always resonated with me, and I hated those really successful
Yeah.
teams. So I don't want to swap jerseys with any of those guys. But the guy who got me a bottle of whiskey, yeah, I'll swap with Dan Pilkington. He's a top man. I appreciate that. Sam Newman also gets a bit of a shout out because he's probably
Yep.
the best English guard I've seen in this league since
Yep.
I've been back. Sort of thing. He's very good.
Definitely, for sure. And he was one of a few players to get a triple double this season. Um,
Yeah,
I thought we talked about some rivalries. So obviously you mentioned Northumbria, Worthing as being sort of really big ones. And obviously Northumbria marched Studios now at Teesside Lions. I was wondering
yeah.
maybe because I'm actually not a good insight in the league. What do you expect from this team coming in? Because I hear he's actually hoping to recruit a few NBL D1 players. And maybe also what were some of his games like? So I imagine they were quite fiery games with great matchups.
The one thing like Mark like watches a lot of film, and Mark's really good at scouting. Like he kind of really like preps his teams for like the strengths of our teams, and he knows how to hide the weaknesses of his teams. And I've always said that to him. I was like, you really like hide guys, or you really hide like where you're like poor in the interior and stuff like that. Um, the one thing about Mark, like he's so animated on the sideline, but like you can still have like a bit of banter with him. Like I used to have a lot of fun with Mark, like during the games, and he'd be like screaming at a ref. You just give him a little comment here or there, and just get him a little nibble from him, and he would try and jump at you as well. Like he was a lot of fun. But like his teams will be like really like tough like defensively. They'll be really organized, be really disciplined, and like they'll play with like heart and passion because he gives that. Like he will give them that like heart and passion because he's so competitive and he loves it so much. Um, I can if I was a betting man, which I am, and I could bet on Division Three, I'd be betting on Teesside for sure.
I know they definitely got the infrastructure. I saw a photo of it. They did like massive crowds, and Newcastle Eagle fans. They were doing this little Instagram live, and they did this thing where it said "ask a question." I thought I asked him one,
Yeah, I saw
and
that clip. Yeah,
I know, and look, that smile on his face, sort of like I was like, "Yep, he's got to sign a few." Who do you think they signed for that? 'Cause obviously, if you saw it, who would you think he's going to go for? Possibly, I'll try and
I
think of a
hope it's
player.
Tommy Devitt. I hope it's
Yeah,
him because again, like he's one of the coolest guys I've ever played against in terms of you can just have a bit of banter with him, like, and he's one of those guys that, like, he probably would self-admit he's not the most talented guy in the world, but he's a hell of a competitor, and like you'd kind of like hit him on a real hard back screen or something like that, and he'd just get up and like pat you on the butt and be like, "Yeah, nice hit, mate." Like, and like he's just one of those guys. I'm trying to think of other guys. Hopefully, he brings back Simon Stewart, like maybe for the OAP league or something like that. But it'd be cool if he brought Simon back. Yeah, like, it's tough. I was trying to think of guys that are up that way. Um,
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think. Because I thought maybe like he might get Tyre out of time. Because when he was on Chuck, he was talking about how well Tyre Ofusi played.
yeah,
I think he cheekily asked Chuck what he was doing next season, but Chuck was being tapped. So I'm not sure you have to wait and see. But I'll try to think like yourself, thinking what players still around the area. Malcolm Smith's a
it could just be
loan.
Mark having a good banter. Like Mark's
It
like
could
that.
just
He's
be
a bit of
having
a
good banter.
wind up merchant, but like
I
yeah,
wasn't
hopefully it is some of those old guys.
for sure. And was it like a memorable game in terms of when you played Northumbria that was really stood out for you? But it was like maybe the toughest game.
Yeah, like my first time we played them when I first came back, we went up on my birthday and we went up and back in a minibus. And I was used to going up, staying in a hotel the night before a game. You had Wi-Fi, leather recliners on the bus. I pull up for this Northumbria game. We got on the Rockets Mobile, as I like to call it, this tiny minibus. It's so uncomfortable. We go up. We have about an hour to warm up. We lose by 40, like in the national trophy. Like it was horrendous. So when we came, we then played again at their place, but in the league, and we ended up like being there by like 15, I think it was, sort of thing. But again, like that was real competitive, and um, that was a good game. But like, yeah, there's been so many good battles. But I one year, to be fair, Mark was barking at me all game. I had a horrendous start to the season. Like, I was playing so bad, and we ended up going up there. And Stu apparently had said to his guys that Danny is playing bad, but he's not going to carry on playing bad for the rest of the season. So you don't take him lightly just because he hasn't played well so far. And I ended up having like 27-12. We lost that one, but by like 3 or something. And he literally came up to me afterwards. He's like, "Of all the times that you decided to stop having bad games, you decided to come up here and do that to me." And I was like, "Yeah, but it'd be rude if I came up and didn't play well in front of you. So, like, what do you want me to do in this scenario and stuff like that?" So those games are always a lot of fun because Mark's such a good guy. Um, and I've actually had a night out with Mark and Simon Stewart, and they were down, and he tried to get me to sign for Northumbria on a napkin, which he thought I'd signed. "Yes, I'll come play for you, Northumbria." And I just said, so I just actually wrote on the napkin and said, "Good luck getting me to do that," and gave it to him. But he actually thought I'd signed. So he started celebrating, but then he read it and he was like, "Come on, man, you can't be doing me like that." But yeah, I would have happily played for Mark. Just there's no way I could have moved up there.
Definitely. And no chance getting out of retirement to play for him next season.
That's a hell of a way. When you got a 2-year-old at home,
Yes,
that's
of
a
course.
hell of a way.
Of
But
course.
like no, like Mark's definitely someone I would have loved to have played for. Like in terms of what I've seen from the sideline, what I've heard from Lewis and Simon and stuff. But yeah, no, coming out of retirement is definitely not on the agenda.
So I thought I had to ask. I thought we just talked a bit about light-hype rumours, and I thought, well, yeah, shame not to ask you while you're here. And I can obviously see why Hemel Worthing rivals a locality, and obviously, especially recently, NBL does seem to be more self-dominant if you talk about the teams who seem to do really well. But what was it about Worthing that made that rivalry special? Like the fans, I imagine, but also the competition on the court, where there's some sort of highlights to you from your games versus Worthing?
Yeah, like
Sorry.
my first year back beating them by 37 in the playoff, or 33 or something in the playoff final. That's always a really good memory. Um, but yeah, no, they have like a really good fan base. Like to like, be honest, like, I'm not knocking it. They have a really good fan base. Um, it's just a case of like they're quite hostile to me individually, which I don't mind. Like if that's what entertains you on a Saturday night, like go crazy. But I don't like you for that. So um, like yeah, like they're really cool. Like I'd happily go down there and watch a game and sit there and take abuse. Like it wouldn't bother me. Like um, But yeah, it's just stuff like that. Like even their bad teams, like we never blew them out. Like, and they had some really bad teams over the years. And they know they did. Like, they'd have one good American, they'd have Brendan, Tom, Ward, and then the rest of the team would be like Joe the Milkman and like someone else. Do you know what I mean? Like they'd just be absolutely terrible. So like even those like games that you could never break away from them. Like they were so like it was so competitive. Um, but yeah, no, it was always a lot of fun playing against them. Like Brendan's such a competitor, and Tom is as well. Like it's just a lot of fun.
Definitely, and obviously you probably this season had time to sort of reflect from your time with Reading. What were some other memories that maybe you haven't discussed thus far, but you reflect on? Oh, I really enjoyed that game, or really enjoyed that season, or that match. What were some of the highlights to you from your time with Reading?
The best team I ever played on socially was actually like in terms of like group like togetherness was actually the worst team I was on at Reading. Um, we are still in a WhatsApp group now. It's like we still speak like once a month. Like all of us should drop a text in and stuff like that. Like we were terrible at basketball. Like we were so bad, but we were so like we had whole bus rides that like people wouldn't put in their headphones and we just sit and talk and we talk about everything. Um, and that was it. We came fifth that year, and like we lost to Barking. I think they were called Kent at the time, but they should never have been called Kent Crusaders. They were Barking Abbey.
Yeah, of
The year they
course, yeah,
won
I
it
remember
all.
that.
Like we lost to them in the first round, but we should have beaten them. We were up like 12 going into the fourth, and just again like played terribly like we had done all season. Um, yeah, like that. Like in terms of like fondness, like that's definitely my favorite team. But the best team I ever played on was definitely that Josh Wiltshire team. Like we won 3 out of 4 and lost in the final, the fourth one. And they were like really good practices every single time, and a good bunch of guys again. Just we didn't have the same togetherness, if that makes sense. We just had real high talent, and Josh had a hell of a season that season.
Definitely, and you touched it earlier how you feel maybe NBLD was a bit more competitive and maybe gets credit for. I definitely agree with you 100% there. From this season, what have your takeaways been? I know obviously everyone knows about Soda, but maybe a bit deeper on the other teams. What players impressed you, or what teams impressed you? What have been your thoughts on this season?
Yeah, like I got to do the Rockets commentary in the second half of the Solent game, and they were like really good. Like I would have loved to have played against that team because it would have been such a good challenge. I didn't get to see too many games. I got to see Rockets play Leicester at home. I got to see them play Barking Abbey at home, and I got to see them play Loughborough at home as well. And again, like I always like watching Barking Abbey. It's all I think it's amazing. You've got like one of the academies like playing Division One men, and like they did like win, but they were up like double figures in the first quarter, and they were playing really well. And then like kind of it's just that like thing that comes with age, that composure and stuff like that, how to manage a game, kind of always comes out. They always get better throughout the season. But yeah, like, I didn't get to see too much. It was actually quite nice. I've removed myself um, from it all, truthfully. So I really enjoyed that. But yeah, no, it's kind of it was nice doing the commentary. I really enjoyed doing that. To be fair.
Oh, I know. I say the guys here gave my first experience doing commentary. It's really exciting. I say I've never played the game, but I imagine the adrenaline I felt is probably the closest I could get to playing. Did you feel that adrenaline too? And what were some of the challenges for you when you were commentating? So that for me, it was like, especially with it being Sona and having both attacking teams, I did have a moment to breathe because they didn't stop it.
Yeah.
Very quick transition. What are some bits that you remember from that highlight debut, as you were saying, sort of?
Well, I did the second half, and I did it with Matt. And it's actually kind of funny doing it with Matt because he has to be like the politically correct one of the whole thing. And I can imagine a lot of those guys on the Reading team, if they listened to me back, they wouldn't have liked what I said. But I don't really care. Like it's my opinion, so I wasn't
Of
offensive
course.
to anyone. Um, like I can imagine.
So frozen there a little bit. 1 second. Hopefully come back soon. Apologies there, we've got a bit of glitch in. Not sure whether that's going through or whether it's just on my screen. One second. Danny was just talking about his experience commentating, and I'll say myself, but thanks to the channel, I've had the opportunity to commentate for Thameside Javeliers on the Solic game of Loughborough, and I hope we get Danny back soon. If what you guys see is the same as what I'm seeing, but the screen is frozen. Apologies, the connection has been a little bit faulty tonight. One sec, just wait to see, hear anything. Okay. I think Danny will be back shortly, but I'll say it's nice to have a little breather for a second. I've really enjoyed having him on thus far. We've covered quite a lot. We talked about the Stony Brook side and his members here and about sort of breakdown sort of this season and the rest and what he's doing so far. If you've got any questions for Danny yourself, just drop them into either on the YouTube live comments or on the Facebook live, and we'll put your questions to Danny. I'm sure he'll love to hear from you all. And yeah, hopefully it won't be too long. But while we're waiting, just for shout out to Always Balling Brand. Today is the last day of their Too Busy Staying In shirt. People watched me yesterday, sort of just talking a bit about the news. We saw us sporting their blue shirt. So if you haven't already supported that, maybe go give them a little look. Tonight I wear my Too Busy Balling jersey from them. I say it really good to sort of support companies like Always Balling and others in the community that are part of the culture. Hopefully we get Danny on shortly. I'm trying to think what I was going to say next. Oh, he's logged in.
Can you hear me?
I hear you. Welcome back.
Awesome.
So
Cheers. Appreciate that.
We were just talking about your experience commentating. Do you want to start from the top because I'm not sure what the people at home heard?
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah. So it's like I said, I did it with Matt Johnson, which is quite fun because, like I said, he has to be quite politically correct. But for me, I was quite honest with my opinion the whole time. So, like I was saying, I can imagine if those Reading players listened back to that game of Reading Soda, they wouldn't have liked what I said. But I don't really care too much. I think that's the fun part about commentary. You can kind of, as long as you're not offending people or being like insulting people, if that makes sense, you can offend them as long as you don't insult them. And it's just kind of going off like what I see, and that's the fun part, which I really enjoy. But yeah, I'd definitely like to do it some more in the future. But I've really enjoyed kind of having my own time and space again. Because that was one of the things I was really worried about, is not knowing what to do with my weekends when basketball stopped. But I've loved it.
I can imagine because, throughout your time you had that sort of roller coaster with Stony Brook for highs and lows, and I know for myself when I'm covering basketball, it can be quite an intense process because it is a weekend thing, isn't it? And like yourself, I'm working on the opposite. So it is very important to talk about mental health and sort of look after yourself. And I'm glad that it's sort of having that little time away is really helps. It can be quite a lot to sort of deal with all the emotions because you're trying to say physical shape and then obviously in mental shape too, because you're not to be open to your criticism from your coaches. You're having to be on training nights, day nights, so it's quite a lot, and it's great to see. But having that little break's done you some good. What's it? And I'd really love to hear what maybe you're thinking about. What you're thinking about doing next, since you had this time to reflect, and what are your plans? Maybe like basketball related plans, but also general plans.
Like basketball wise, everyone always kind of asks me if I'm going to get into coaching and stuff like that. And for me, that you should only really get into coaching if you've got that real drive and passion for it. Like if you're gonna like give up your time to help support young people, usually obviously start a junior basketball, like you've got to really like love that and have a passion for doing that. So you shouldn't like for me, like I shouldn't be giving up my time if I'm not going to be fully 100% into doing that. So I'm not ready for that just yet. I'll happily do a bit of commentary every now and then, but you know, I've really enjoyed it. I've been able to get up and see Tottenham many times this season, which I'm not sure how that's been for my health, but you know, that's been a lot of fun. But yeah, no, like just spending time with my daughter, my other half, has been really, really exciting, and I've loved every second of that. And kind of enjoyed just being a fan again. Like I'm always going to be a fan of Reading. You know, it's such a it has such a special place in my heart, and that it's just been nice going to watch games. It's just that's the thing. I just want to go and watch games and be like everybody else in the crowd. Like just sit there and enjoy the game and just have fun doing that.
I definitely hear you. I think for me, especially with just around the second half of the season, for me, it was a big challenge for me try and differentiate from being a fan, but also being a neutral NBL voice. And I definitely sort of wavered between the lines a few times.
Mm.
Jeffrey Burnsley just messaged to say, great experience was when Stony Brook came to England in 2011 to visit Danny's home. What do you remember from that experience? So shout out to Jeffrey Burnsley for messaging in.
Yeah, so Bernie's an absolute legend around Stony Brook. So he does like all the commentary for like the basketball games. So like appreciate you tuning in, Bernie. Yeah, no, like we came on tour to like Ireland, England, and France right before my senior year, and we had a big like kind of like barbecue at my house when we came to England, and like we kind of my parents like put on this amazing spread. So we had the whole basketball team, all the coaches. Bernie was there, like physio, like all that. That was like amazing. Like for them to come see like where I live, and we had a little walk around. I grew up in Windsor. So we had a little walk around Windsor and stuff like that, and that was like amazing. Be able to play like my dad's like a lot older than most dads. I'm 31, and my dad's gonna turn 85 this year. Is it 85? 86? Ignore me. 86 this year. So for him to be able to come and watch a couple of games where he probably only got to see 3 games the rest of my Stony Brook career, that was really really special. But yeah, no, it's just to have like your university come on tour to Europe is such a cool thing when you're from Europe. Like it just means so much. We played Milton Keynes Lions, and we played a Midnight Madness like select squad, and that was a lot of fun as well.
Also, I just remember a conversation we had before coming on air, and it was about you not ever making highlight clips, but when you were saying the other day you saw some old clips of you playing, and obviously not just limited statement which you were talking about, but are there clips of you playing but you've seen recently like, oh wow, I forgot about that, or you really enjoyed watching recently?
Yeah, like you forget how athletic you are when you play below the rim for so long. Um, that's yeah, no, it's just nice seeing like old clips or like old clips of teammates and stuff like that. I've seen pictures and like of when I first came back from the States, like and like pictures of when I was a junior and how like my body's changed and how I've changed and stuff like that. And Sam Nita from Hoops Fix had some really good banter. Like I teased him. We beat Manchester in the trophy final on that Josh Wiltshire team, and I had a tip dunk, and I joked with him afterwards. I was like, "Hey, you better clip that and send it to me because I'm not going to get another tip dunk for the rest of my career, buddy." And it's only because of the lockdown. He was going through film and he messaged me. He's like, "You won't believe it, I found it." But me and him were having a bit of banter on Twitter and stuff like that, and he put it up, and so that was a lot of fun. But yeah, like I said, I'm not a big fan of highlights or highlight tapes. Like it's a team game. I get guys that are trying to get jobs and stuff like that, but your numbers do the talking, and if your team wins, like there's more likely you're going to get a like opportunity to play somewhere else. Do you know what I mean? Like so, for me, a highlight
Yeah,
tape only it shows your highlights. Like coaches want to know everything about you. Like I sent a whole game tape to Stony Brook when they wanted to see a game. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like I wanted them to see like my positives and my negatives.
He definitely, and so for me, as like yourself, as a football fan first. So for me, it was a bit confusing seeing highlight tapes. Like I definitely had the same thought thing. So you're thinking like, well, of course that you did well in those 3 minutes, not to criticise everyone doing them, but you don't know the strengths of those players you're with, but of course, space for you to have those chances. How your team compares to the other teams, and um, so many things that you can't really get from a 3 minutes tape. I guess
Yeah,
it
I
it
can't
it
stand
maybe
them.
it's just no.
Like for me, like when you're making a highlight tape, I think this is what everyone seems to forget. Like, one, it can't be too long, and then two, you kind of like if you're just showing a highlight like against one team and it's just one highlight, or then you've got like it's the same three or four teams. Like, well, if you're playing the worst teams in the league, you're gonna have more highlights. Like, this is like it doesn't have any context, and I think that's what gets lost a lot.
Yeah, I definitely I've seen a few. I won't name names, but it's like okay, you just did that. There's that team. You did it again. There's that team. I definitely hear you. Um, and obviously you talk about your commentary, you enjoyed it, and I think what's really great for this is the NBL live. I didn't know if you caught any of those games, so you to watch them back. I think that's a really great concept. I wonder what your thoughts on it were.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think like most players like love that stuff, and I think the one really amazing thing is for those guys that are playing overseas or they are playing away from home in England. They have the opportunity to have people watch from back home. I think that's huge. Like for me, I'm fully behind it. I think it can only get better, and it can only be a positive thing, like for the sport and for Div One.
For sure, for sure. And I know we talked a bit about football, and obviously being a Spurs fan. What are your thoughts about it coming back? 'Cause for me, I'm quite mixed. I don't think it's the right time, but actually, I've really enjoyed watching the games even without the crowd. So I wonder what your thoughts on watch some of the
Yeah,
Premier League games.
I've loved
Yeah,
it. Like it's,
yeah,
I think it's brilliant. Like I actually think it has also been a bit of a morale booster for the public. Now, obviously, it's all money. Like I'm trying to sit on some kind of like side of it being like, yeah, it's just for the people and stuff like that. Like I know it's money orientated, but it does have that side effect. It is like kind of like a religion to some people in this country. Football, like it's what they live and breathe, and I think it's been a nice positive, during this time for people that are struggling and stuff like that. They found a release in supporting and watching their team, and they can kind of forget about everything else.
definitely. We were talking about some of the games that you're not really excited to have. I was thinking, but maybe some of the games aren't as high tempo as maybe they usually are, because maybe the players aren't feeding off that fan noise. For you as a player, when you're playing basketball, did you felt like you fed off the atmosphere more when it was a big atmosphere, or do you feel it has an effect in terms of quality of football we're watching currently?
Yeah, definitely. Like I love playing at home. I hated traveling to away games. Like I was never a fan of it, and I definitely probably if you look at my career statistics, they're probably a lot greater at home than they are away from home. But yeah, I think it does make a big difference. I think the Bundesliga showed that. Like the first something like 15 games, there was like 11 away wins, which
Mm.
statistically never happens. So again, but I think it's interesting. I think you really see the best managers and the best tactics like in football right now because you do lose that like home field advantage. But if you're an Arsenal fan, you don't have home field advantage anyway. Because anyway,
I was waiting for the
I had
Arsenal
to get I had to get
references.
one. Yeah, I had to get
Had to
one
get
big
one
one.
in. I said, I know it's not been a great season, but what have you thought about Mourinho being in charge, and what have you felt about the team? Do you feel like it's going in the right direction, or do you feel something needs to give for it to get to that next level?
Yeah, like the squad definitely needs reinvesting in. But if you look at what Mourinho's done, like since he's come in, we're averaging half a point more per game. We're averaging more goals per game. We're conceding less goals per game. So it's not going to be as attractive style of football as when Poch was in charge. But like Mourinho's definitely like shoring up the ship. Spurs are never going to do any business in the transfer market because that's not how they operate unless we're signing free agents or getting an absolute bargain. So I'd love to see how I'm never going to judge him until he has a full preseason under his belt. And then after that, when you get to, October, November, December time, you can kind of start judging. But he's done a good job so far, so I can't really complain.
Definitely. And I think for me, when I was first restarted watching football has come back on, I was really critical of the noise, like the fan noise. And and now I found I was doing some rebound research the other day. I wasn't watching the game like focus on it, but I actually found having a noise relaxed me, and I was able to be more productive. I know what you thought about the the football noise host Premier League, because it's
Yeah, I
totally new
tried
concept
listening
what they're
to it
trying to do.
without the yeah, I tried listening to it without the noise. I just found it really eerie.
Yeah,
So I've only been listening to it with the like fake fan noise. But yeah, I think it's great. I think all the stuff they're trying to do to get fans involved, like the cardboard cutouts, like some of that stuff's been hilarious. Like the different people that they've like
yeah.
been sent in and showed up, like that's been a lot of fun. Or like you see the things like Man City didn't even have enough fans on their Zoom to like fill up the board
Mm.
that showed all the fans watching the game and stuff like that's just again, it's all been a good bit of banter and stuff like that. It's been really fun.
Of course, I'm glad you mentioned that, 'cause my mind's thinking about when our next basketball season starts, what what environment it would be in. I know a lot of venues probably have challenges in terms of social distancing. Obviously, depending on how many fans they can let in, and I know a lot of the Wi-Fi is a big problem in NBLD. Well, I know that from someone's looking at live stats, and I'd love them to talk about soon fan noise. I think actually the players would love to hear the fans chanting them. The
Mm.
fans would love it. You might even be able to monetize it possibly. But I mean, from your perspective, if we're not playing NBL D1 in front of fans or a large number of fans, what would you like to see as a fan of the game?
Yeah, I definitely like to like one thing I'd always like to see is like get coaches mic'd up. I think that
Yeah,
would be a really cool thing. That like then maybe in your intervals, like the commentators could then potentially have something to talk about. You just like you kind of do in the NBA. It's just hearing a coach mic'd up, just getting a sound bite or like just getting a bit of a video clip of what they're saying to their team. Like maybe bleep out some expletives if they're using those and stuff. But I think that would always be a cool thing. Or getting players mic'd up, like I think that's also like a cool thing to do. That would just be just give a bit more insight when you don't have fans there and stuff like that.
for sure. And obviously, you've got the Reddit links for guys do the Reddit live, and I chat to people. Like I said the same idea this year. I thought, if it works in the NBA, let's try it here. But I think a lot of feedback I get is that it's going to cost too much to do the mic. Was that the kind of things you hear from Matt and the guys at Reading, or maybe links to basketball?
Yeah, Matt doesn't entertain me when I start coming up with suggestions about stuff like that.
Oh,
He brushes me aside quickly, but no, like
oh,
Matt's up for all these ideas, but obviously, yeah, like you said, like it comes with a cost and it comes with a logistical demand and stuff like that. And basketball clubs in England are built off volunteers, so
I
I think
know.
that's probably the bigger barrier is getting consistent volunteers all the time. I think that's probably a bigger issue that I think a lot of people lose sight of. It's great to have like all these ideas because it would make the sport better and it would make like things such a better experience, but
Yeah.
it comes at a cost. Like, and there's no money in basketball in England right now, so you can't you can't expect that.
No, I know because I say my journey is totally unique. I sort of got into basketball 3 or 4 years ago. 1 or 2 years of following it, I got really frustrated, started doing rebound. But like you say, when I started doing rebound, I learned that like these ideas aren't being done just people are thinking about. It's because actually people say we haven't got the money to do them. But I'd
Mm,
really love to see like even if it's cardboard cutouts or something. But Bridges, I think the big barrier at the moment is actually that fan engagement. I know quite a few clubs
mm.
do really well. Not to call names up, but I don't know what things you think maybe could be easily achieved in a post-lockdown Britain for the NBL, possibly in terms of like fan
Man,
experience for game days.
that's tough. But I
So
think that's probably the like easiest way of doing it, or like getting signs sent in. Like Spurs have done a big like they get their flags sent in. So like
yeah,
like Spurs fans like flags are now like draped around the stadium and stuff like that. But I think yeah, no, I think it's tough for NBL one clubs to like do stuff like that. But that would be cool, like doing cardboard cutouts or just getting like pictures of their like junior squads and stuff like that. So that would be cool.
Definitely, definitely. I've been looking forward to see what way the league goes for next season, and I'd be interested to see what happens next. What are your thoughts on it? Because I imagine being the next player, being a fan, obviously also having that link still with Reading. What are your thoughts? I think there's a lot of genuine concern for NBL clubs. So I wonder what your thoughts on that.
Yeah, like, I think it's just one of those things. It's like, it's just the budget. Like what's the budget for these teams to get players in, and like, are players going to be willing to take a little bit less? Like, if these teams can only afford a little bit less, it's I think you might see some other like clubs in lower divisions rosters and stuff like that. Maybe some Division One rosters be a little bit weaker, or some Division One rosters get absolutely stacked up. I think that's probably what will happen. But again, they're just my assumptions of what will happen. I don't actually know. Um, but yeah, I think like, depending on who's got the money and who can afford it is how successful any of those teams are going to be.
Sure, for sure. And I kind of want to sort of just almost round up, maybe like from your as a player perspective, from your last season, or maybe as a fan watching this season. Are there any like young British players that you think, oh, they could be the next Danny Tart or Tintin, or what, or even players that you think have stood out for you as ones to watch for next season and beyond?
I mean, I can only comment on like the guys I've seen at Reading,
Yeah,
um, like Sam Grant. For me, I think it's time he like stepped up and really put his mark on it, and really developed his work ethic and his body and stuff like that. And here's a great opportunity to have a good like springboard. Because he has to take advantage of this Division One men's season now, like whatever it's going to be, and kind of like use that. So Sam's one that he's got a heap of potential. He's just got to apply it now. Um,
yeah. With Sam, as I was doing some stat leaderboards. I think I did like I think rebounds per minute or points per minute. I was looking at terms of their output per that bit, and Sam did come up, and I the family was saying, "Oh, has he been injured a bit? I think this season, or not played
yeah,
as much."
he's had a bit of a
Okay.
bad back. Bless him, which you don't wish on anyone. But yeah. I still think like he's got the opportunity to like even go up a gear like with his work ethic and developing his game, and I think he could be like really successful like moving forward if he takes that next step.
What part of his games, for maybe someone who doesn't know him, it's only know him from name and obviously from Twitter and stuff, but for people who don't know, what parts of his game that really impress you?
Yeah, so he's 6'8", he's long, like he can shoot the ball from three. He's athletic enough, sort of thing, and like Sam wants to learn, like for sure, like he wants to learn and wants to get better, but it's just kind of having that consistency of trying to work on his body every day and get stronger, and work on other aspects like his defense and stuff like that. But yeah, Sam could be a really good three-man moving forward. That he's able to get block 1.5 shots a game. Do you know what I mean? Like he's got that potential two-way ability, and I just hope he kind of really grabs hold of it.
Cool. I appreciate, obviously, you tell you don't have players you've seen, obviously, been around Reading. Are there any others at all that maybe you think people should keep an eye out on?
Like I don't know in terms of who they're keeping and stuff like that.
Yep,
And I don't know. Like, I think having a year out's kind of kept me out of touch of what's going on and stuff like
of
that around the
course.
country. To be honest with you, but yeah, no, like Sam's the only one that like kind of springs to mind right now.
Cool. I really appreciate coming on and hearing your story and talking about the players you swapped jerseys with, some rivalries. Really interesting to hear your story. Um, I thought maybe to finish on maybe a bit of advice. I know you're a teacher, and obviously you're doing your role in a challenging environment. Maybe a bit of advice for people, either like some of the students who might be watching, or maybe for people who are going through difficult times for one reason or another.
Yeah, like just find something that you can like get into and like try new stuff. Like I've tried different things like I'm not good at during this time. Like I built my first like vegetable plot because I'm not very good at DIY, but I've now been growing vegetables since like the beginning of lockdown and stuff like that. I've just been given different things a go, and it's just try new things, and it's a great opportunity to like work on your body and stuff like that, and you know make sure you get out and exercise, and yeah, just don't be afraid to give things a go. Really, like that's kind of what I've done, and I've kind of not enjoyed lockdown, but I definitely haven't regretted it.
I know. Is that a funny thing to sort of like you want to be productive, and then you feel odd saying that lockdown not actually good for you, but you took some positive from it. It's quite a hard thing to say and
Mm.
feel because for me personally, I know there's a lot of people going through hardship, and for me, I definitely hear what you're saying in terms of trying something new. I think that's really good advice and having perspective. Um, it says after. I mean, sorry, Jeffrey Burns again. Sorry, Rupert's supposed to mention. After
Yeah,
Danny, Akwasi, Yeboah, Jad, had, sorry, a great career at Stony Brooks and Rutgers. Before you go, do you want to talk a bit about him?
yeah,
If you
like
know him at all?
like Aquasi's like the first kid I recommended to Stony Brook, so um,
Oh, wow.
he's yeah, like he and like I'm not high on like recommending people because I've got, in my opinion, I've got high expectations, but I've never seen a young player like improve over a season at the rate like Aquasi did. So when I was seeing that, like it made sense to me to try and put him in contact at Stony Brook, and he had a great 4 years there. He redshirted his first year, and then he had an unbelievable season with Rutgers this past year, and they were going to make the tournament for the first time in like 20 something years, but the March Madness got cancelled. So, but no, he
I
did.
know.
Quasi did an unbelievable job.
Definitely. I think that's a really good part of networking, as we were talking about earlier, in terms of like you're always still part of the family and you'd have that
Mm.
input in. And I'd love, as an ex player yourself, I'd really love what you think maybe. So I think there's a lot that either teams or players to learn from ex players. What sort of roles do you think maybe ex players should be considering if they want to stay in the game? Not coach not for everyone, commenting might not be everyone. I imagine there's something clubs might be able to help, even if it's voluntary. What are your thoughts? So I imagine some players who've been through the system have that invaluable advice.
I would like you can kind of take up advisory roles, and I think this is where people in clubs may need to check their egos and just kind of let people that have been players a more recent time just like give their feedback and give their input, because it's only like feedback that you don't have to take, you don't have to listen to it, but I would definitely say like anybody that's had an experience and they are attached to a local club or could be, you don't have to give a big time commitment, but you could definitely give input on like how things are elsewhere and how certain things could potentially help as well. That's definitely one thing I'd say like people can help with, and it's free. Do you know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
don't have to like charge for that.
No, I think if you had that line open as it was, it could benefit both teams. You've shown how it's beneficial for you in university. You see a player that met your thing and he's gone to have a good thing. To be the same for clubs, because I think for me, looking outwards in, I obviously really appreciate British basketball is a great community, all very welcome, but I know there are challenges for certain doors. But I do feel that actually, if we want to grow the game more, we need to have those doors open.
Mm.
So I think what you're saying is correct. They don't have to like always take that advice on, but actually, that I don't think there's any negativity in terms of having, being open to
No.
hearing the next player. And it's good to hear you say that too. Um, So I've really had enjoyed having you on. It's great. Any questions for me or anything you'd like to say to either the Stony Brook family or the Reading family? I'm sure there's a lot of people who you're familiar with who are tuned in and you might want to say something too.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Appreciate for tuning in. Thanks for having me on as well. It's been quite nice. Like being out of the game for a bit of time to kind of have these chats and have these conversations. It's been quite nice for me. It's been quite nostalgic. So I appreciate you having me on, and everyone at Redden and Stony Brook, I hope you're staying safe at these times, and I hope I can see all of you guys soon.
Definitely, you're very welcome. I think for me, having these shows really reinforces the positivity of talking to people. I think that's one thing maybe we try and keep going with our day, but actually, I've really seen the power of talking. For me, doing this show is real positivity for me in terms of my mental health. Talking to people for the show, I've learnt the stories, but also, but it's reminded me on a human level when I'm not doing this show to check in on my loved ones or my family or maybe people I've lost contact with. It doesn't take much, and I think if any of you guys listen, maybe it's struggling, all it takes is a little text, say how you're doing, someone, and I think that'll have massive impact on your own, but also supporting your loved ones. I
Yeah, for
think
sure.
that's everything for me. I think otherwise I'd be submerged into darkness. But thank you for coming on. I wish you all the best. Hope your family's well, and I look forward to seeing you. Um, maybe at games next season if you're going to watch the game. I'm in Llewellyn. I'm sure I'll say hi and stay safe, and everyone at home stay safe as well. We'll see you all soon. Bye for me.
I appreciate
Bye
it.
for me.
You stay safe as well, man. Thank you.
Cheers, man. Welcome.